Welcome back to Nap Trapped. Hi, Beck.
Hey Sally, how are we doing?
Good. We are talking about something today, and I'm just going to dive right in because this
Yep.
question comes up often enough across all the places people ask us questions. We're going to be talking about how and why we structure our feeds. The difference in how we structure our feeds and anchor them in between a baby on a 3-nap schedule compared to when we are on a 2-nap schedule, somewhere between 8 and 9 months. And I think context is really important here. First of all, the way you feed your baby and the frequency is none of our business unless you are our client. There are many ways to distribute calories, and we also appreciate that there is more to feeding than just nutrition. The context here is that as sleep consultants, we work with families to fix a sleep problem. And in order to set the stage for success, we need to know that day calories are in place so that a family can be confident in knowing what is a resettle versus what is genuine hunger overnight. So take that context into our recommendations about how we structure and change feeds around with this nap transition.
It's not a problem unless it's a problem for you.
Exactly.
Or,
Yep. Yep.
So when we're dropping from 3 to 2 naps, we are hopefully moving into more of a chunky nap sort of schedule. So we're just going to sort of use the traditional like routine for an 8 to 9-month-old, 10-month-old. Your little one is waking at around 7 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to offer a full feed. And our main sort of focus for the day is making sure that our little ones are getting amazing milk feeds. We are always making sure that we've got a really great balance of incredible milk feeds plus the nutrition from solids, and that they're working together in harmony to make sure that our little one is going into the night fueled up and that they've got great calories under their belt. Because when our little ones have great calories under their belts, we feel more confident. So the whole idea with dropping from 3 naps to 2 naps and then moving from 4 feeds to 3 feeds is to make sure that as our little ones grow and their interest in solids increases, that we are still maximizing that opportunity to, offer the right amount of calories in at solid times.
It's a balance, isn't it? We want to
Yes, it's a
create
balance.
enough appetite and enthusiasm for both great milk feeds and for great solids feeds so that you're not left having to top up because you did multiple feeds in a wake window and then there was no appetite left for hunger, but then you're worried that they didn't take solids, so they need another milk feed, and it can just kind of spiral. And I think also in terms of that, we work with a lot of families who have multiple feeds still in play overnight, and that is always something that, particularly at 8 or 9 months when this nap drop occurs, we know that the average 8 to 9-month-old baby who is otherwise healthy, thriving, eating, drinking, has the capacity to either sleep all night long with no feeds, or we can whittle it down to one very small feed in the early hours of the morning that then will be dropped if and when the family is ready. So in order to do that, we have to find this balance between great milk feeds, great solids, and we also want to fill up before these long chunky naps, because when we're on 3 naps, sometimes it's 45 minutes and they've got a 30-minute cat nap in the afternoon. We're asking a baby to stay asleep for roughly an hour and a half at a time. They're not going to do that if they are hungry.
That's right. So with the 3-nap schedule, you've got the 4 hourly feeds, which is 7, 11, 3, and roughly around 6:30. So when we are dropping to the 2 naps through the day, we're moving to 3 feeds, and the feeds then become 7 a.m. in the morning, so big feed to start the day. And then the next feed is then offered half an hour before nap 2, which sort of sits around the 1:30 mark. And then the final feed before bed, so around that 6:30 still. Now, the reason why we drop the 11 o'clock milk feed is because we want to start moving on increasing the lunchtime solids. When we have a little one who is moving into the introduction of solids, it doesn't matter how much they have. We are just wanting to create an interest in them. But now at 8, 9 months, we really need to start improving how much or the volume that they're taking at that point in time. Because like we were mentioning before, their mobility is increasing. They're expending more energy as they crawl and move around and pull to stand and all the things. So we need to support that by offering more calories. So if our 11 o'clock milk feed is still in place, then that will detract from the appetite at 12 o'clock. So it means that we're having a great milk feed, but we're still sort of only having like a smallish solids, and then we're asking our little ones to do a really big stretch until their second nap. If we take the 11 o'clock milk feed out of the mix, then the appetite is then genuinely created for a great solids at 12 o'clock. So by 12 o'clock, they're like, oh my God, like I'm really into
Open the buffet.
give it to me now. I am ready. So, that's where we're having like our big main meal of the day. So it's, spaghetti bolognese, it's, chicken, beef, lamb casseroles with your veg.
We want some protein in the mix.
Carbies. Yeah. So I always sort of say to my families, think about what your dinner time menu would look like, and that you actually want that in at lunchtime. So you're really fueling your little one up to be able to take that nice, long, chunky second sleep. And with the addition then of having a really great milk feed before their second nap. So the spacing is that you create the appetite in the morning for the nice lunch, so at around 12 o'clock, but then you also have a nice gap between lunch and the second feed so that there is an appetite created for your little one to want to take a really nice big milk feed before they go down for nap 2. So that's where the spacing is important in terms of where you put your lunch and where you put your second milk feed. Does that make sense, Sally?
Yeah, I remember I breastfed both of my babies, and I remember having this realization very early on, like probably even when they went from like newborn cluster feeding to, now they feed 2 to 3 hourly. And I thought, we start weaning basically from the day they're born. I remember having this realization because I was like, do I need to worry about supply? Like, if my baby's naturally going to 2 to 3 hours, all those things that particularly as a first-time mother, I didn't know. I was just sort of going with the flow and making it up as I went along. And then I thought, no, this is always for the next age and state. It is a natural progression. We know, I stopped feeding both of mine at 13 months, but we were down to just the pre-bed breastfeed. And they ate all day. They ate all day. But I do remember that moment of like, weaning starts now, even though I'm not actively doing anything for it. And I think I always understand when families have a moment of concern or maybe anxiety around, we're dropping a milk feed. And what I would say is that this is all part of the weaning process. Again, when we're working, we are fixing a problem and creating confidence and appetite in all the right places. But there is a natural progression because you and I also both work often with families at 14 months, let's say, who are still having so many milk feeds, and then we're kind of trying to pull back and that baby really knows about a bottle at 14 months and can be quite loud about it. And so often when I work with families in that scenario, when we pull back on milk appropriately and we do wean, their so-called picky eater is no longer a picky eater. They were just too full with milk. Now, that is not necessarily the case at 8 or 9 months with this nap drop, but we are looking to sort of future-proof from that scenario where you're still offering 3 to 4 bottles overnight for a toddler. So if we start structuring the day, it goes hand in hand with the natural weaning process, with the nap drop, and then you just start to move forward. And if and when you're ready, you whittle things down much closer to 12 months and beyond. So we're always thinking ahead, you and I.
We are always.
It's exhausting.
We are. And it also sort of goes hand in hand. So as we sort of move through the day, so sorry to cut you off, Sally.
No, not at all.
It's sort of, I want families to be reassured that the second half of the day is sort of where we're focusing our attention in terms of calories and really fueling our little ones up for sleep overnight. So while we initially had 4 milk feeds through the day, so 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, the calorie count for the afternoon with milk is still the same because there is still
Yeah.
two milk feeds in the second half of the day.
Yep.
They're just at different timings. So, around that 1:30 mark and then one before bed. So there's still two full feeds in there. But now there is the addition of having a really gung-ho lunch.
Yeah, big lunch.
Then big lunch. The other thing too that will happen is because that milk feed is now, say, around that 1:30 mark, there is then a really good gap that's created in order to boost dinner time as well. So when our little ones are having their dinner around 5 o'clock-ish mark, they're able to take a little bit more at that point, and there is a better interest in the solids because they haven't just had a full milk feed at 3 o'clock. Like, the spacing is now really important to create appetite and for interest to occur, so you can start introducing different foods and so forth into the mix, because a little one is more curious and more interested in wanting to explore a little bit more with food. So that's where the calories start to really increase, because we've got these windows of time where appetite is now peaked. The other thing that we want to make sure of is that final feed before bed is always a really good one. Like, we're always maintaining that if the final feed is impacted in any way, then your confidence is going to drop a little bit overnight. So we're making sure that confidence is boosted as you go into the night. And we always want to make sure that while your little one is having a really great dinner, they're not actually having so much dinner that it's impacting that final milk feed before bed. So if you're finding that might be a little spin-off from, the increase in solids, like at 5 o'clock, maybe just pull back just a touch, just to sort of bring that nice big full milk feed back into the mix for a little while. And then once you've got the new sort of scheduling rolling out for a good couple of weeks, then you can start to increase your solids again at dinner time. And your little one will be so well adjusted to having a final feed that's a really good one that it won't impact them as much, once it's all established, that you can still have a really good solid intake at that point.
And I think to your point of that the milk calories still stay the same in the second half of the day, another way I like to frame it for families is also we're actually bulking out that second half of the day before we go into the night. If we have just smashed calories in the first half and then hope that they're still working for us at 4 a.m., that's when we're going to have questions of, is my baby actually hungry? There is method behind the madness of, okay, we're going to keep things the same and really tank up for the second half of the day so that those calories really do start to carry over, particularly in the context of perhaps sleep training out and weaning out overnight feeds. Confidence. That's what you and I go on about.
Confidence is key. Yeah, it is. And it's just a game changer in terms of when you can sort of get a visual on how much your little one is eating. If you are then working on sleep over the course of the night, you can sort of maybe you're, sleep training a 10 p.m. milk feed out of the mix and, at 9 months or whatnot. And you can sort of think to yourself, okay, well, hang on.
Here's a good example. Yeah, because I read this morning in Snoo Social, which was based on their current schedule, their baby then had a waking 40 minutes, like a false start, 40 minutes after bedtime, and wasn't sure if it was hunger because there had been sort of like a half bottle, that's all that was taken. So maybe there was genuine hunger. So fed and then went on into the rest of the night. But it's that we want to reduce that mental load for families of umming and ahhing, because we've talked about this before. We never want to sleep train through genuine hunger. So if you have your day feeds in place, you can then confidently know that 40-minute waking is not a feed. We are going to resettle. There are lots of other reasons that might have caused it, and your job is to consistently support them through that in settling back off to sleep, not to add calories in the mix, which then throws out the next feed, and so the cycle continues. So you and I are very big, and this is one of the reasons why we wanted to create this podcast, is we want to explain the why, because it is all well and good for us to say, and now you're going to put your baby on this schedule and you're going to drop these feeds, and it can all sound a bit, what? There is logic. There is logic. And when it makes sense for you and in the context of fixing a sleep issue or in the context of weaning and moving towards more solids, then hopefully it makes sense and you're able to implement and watch your baby devour
Yeah.
solids and their milk feeds, breast or bottle, doesn't matter. So long as these are full feeds. I think one of the things that I've noticed over the years of doing this is that there is often a bit of a misconception and an emphasis that fixing baby sleep problems is always about sleep and sleep training and self-settling. And whilst that is definitely part of it, I think where I so commonly start when I read an intake form is feeds.
Yeah, 100%.
How do we line these up so that we know baby's not hungry? How do we set the stage for longer sleep? That's always the goal. Our job is to get you more sleep, not less. How do we structure this so that you've got some rhythm and routine to your day that is age appropriate? And then we add on any kind of self-settling and sleep training discussion. But I usually, feeds is one of the first places I start.
Yeah. I think with solids too, it's very, everyone has their own sort of unique thoughts on how much and when, and the old chestnut of food before one is just for fun. I totally understand where that comes from, but from my perspective, we still need to, our little ones are growing, so they need more. And, it doesn't necessarily all have to come from milk. Like, we really want our little ones to start making headways and great strides with solids to support their growing bodies and getting the nutrients that's required and so forth. So when it comes to sleep, there is a careful balance of making sure we've got incredible milk feeds and, the nutrition that brings to the table, along with the introduction of solids, which is going to carry our little ones forward. So I hope that helps to clear that up.
Okay. Well, I think that's the episode.
I think we're done. Our job is done.
Our job is done. And we will see you on the next episode of Nap Trapped. Bye.
Right. Goodbye, team. See you later.